Just want to let you guys know, this truck grossed over $1 million for us. Our 72% cut, and I know there's going to be some of you in the comments that are going to be very skeptical about this and say, well, you could do better here, or I did better than you. So here's a challenge. This is the put up or shut up challenge. Put your numbers, your average 52-week numbers, down in the comments below. And tell us who you drive for. I'm interested to hear from you. Let's get back into the video. Thanks for watching. Get into today's video, I want to talk to you guys about a business management software that's been tailored for trucking by owner operator Prime. OTR on the revenue. If you guys are a lease op, owner op, especially with Prime in the trucking industry, you want to check out OTR today, guys. This thing is going to keep track of your loads, your revenue, your fuel, everything. Tax deductions, expenses, the whole 9 yards. Don't forget to put Freight Skater in the referral section. Get you a free 30-day free trial, just $15 a month after that. Check it out today. What's going on, everybody? We are back again today with another video, and I think this is one a lot of people have been waiting on. I hope you like numbers, because we have a lot to go through, and I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. We have finished 2 full leases here at Prime Inc, and I'll put a link right here for this card. You'll take a look and see our first end of lease breakdown, which wasn't nearly as in-depth as this one's going to be. As you mature as an operator, the more you do, the more focused you begin starting to be on certain things. My numbers now are way different than what they were then. Not just amounts, but also the in-depth versions of these numbers. So I tried to simplify it as best I could, but we've got a lot to dive into, guys. So we're going to take a look at the first lease that we actually completed with Prime. It was 597,407 miles. Took us 151 weeks to complete. The total lease revenue was $921,787.58 without the end of lease completion bonus. Weekly average was $6104.55 to the truck gross. Total cost to operate the truck for the 151 weeks was $533,390.72, which gave us a weekly average of $3,582.38 per week. That was across the board cost for that truck. Net revenue, which is take home to the bank pre-tax, was $380,396.86, which gave us a net weekly average of $2,572.16. Now, guys, I understand this is gonna make your head hurt. These are a lot of numbers. You got to understand there's a million ways to look at your revenue. It's not just rate per mile. We've actually broken it down into hours that were on the truck, total hours that you spent out on the road or the entirety of the lease, mileage, by week, by day, everything. So there's a lot of different ways to look at your revenue that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. And you got to also remember too, guys, that for those of you that are going to come to the comments and say, well, man, I'm solo and I do that with my own truck, my own authority. This at Prime Inc, guys, when you're leasing or you're an owner operator and you are in this fleet, you're not at 100% risk. So there is no 100% risk out here. The whole part of working within a carrier, having that safety net, and having that partial dividend given back to them because you're using their numbers, their insurance, and all that stuff. So yes, there's going to be a lot of you who own your own truck, have your own authority, maybe with other carriers that might do better some weeks. This is an average. This is not. I mean, I've had weeks where I've brought home $8,000 to the bank, okay? Just crazy numbers for 2,000 miles, okay? And then there's weeks where we've only brought home 2,000 because we got hung up at shippers and receivers. Every week is not the same. You have to keep an open mind with all this. So everyone's home time is different. Well, we're a younger team, so we are out there getting as much as we can. We go home as often as we can because obviously we have our family at home and our girls. And guys, you got to understand, everybody's situation is different, okay? These are just actual numbers that I can give you. And you can take them and split them however you want. If you want to say, okay, this is a team number, I can split this in half for solo, do that. Whatever you want to do. Take 15% of it off and say, well, I don't want to run that hard. It'll give you an idea on what you're looking at when you come to Prime to lease a truck, what the costs are going to be. In the back of your head, you can say, hey, look, all right, I understand this now. Now I understand that, hey, it's going to cost me X amount per day to sit at home, or it's going to cost me this on average. So remember that. All right, guys, let's start. Let's get in here. This is going to be for the Tonka, the 2021 Freightliner. This is her EOL week, or end of lease week, was on the 19th of January this year. Our 2021 Freightliner had 597,147 actual miles. 552,813 of those miles were dispatch miles. All right. Now you might say, some of you who are new to the industry say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't the actual miles equal the dispatch miles? Well, they do zip code to zip code dispatching, and that's usually an industry standard. It's going to be very hard to find a carrier that's going to actually pay you for actual miles. They do exist. Don't get me wrong. Prime is not one of them. Okay. So you subtract those actual miles, or the dispatch miles from the actual miles. It gives us a dividend of 44,334 potential miles that we weren't paid for. Tonk averaged 4,558 miles per week. And this is all weeks considered. So if we went home 10 weeks this year and only went home 6 the last year, this is even if you're sitting at home. This is an entire average for the 131 weeks that she was in operation. She was in operation for 131 weeks. That's what we had this lease for. 917 days, which is a total hours, total of 22,008 hours. So from the time I signed the lease to the time I turned her in, on a 24-hour basis. Hours the truck ran was actually 12,876.45 hours. Now that gives us, when we went on the truck average hours, that gives us an actual mile per hour average of 46.37 miles per hour. Total lease revenue for Tonk was $1,178,982.78. This truck grossed to the truck in 131 weeks over $1 million to us. Okay, that's total revenue. That's everything. The total average per actual mile was over $1.97 per actual mile. Total dispatch mileage per mile was $2.13. Now, if you want to talk about per operating hour, the truck averaged $91.56 per operating hour based on the hours the truck was actually running. Total hours was $53.57 for the entirety of the 22,008 hours. So now you want to talk about per day, the truck grossed $1,285.69 average per day. Per week, we grossed $8,999.86 average per week. With any kind of revenue, you're going to have expense. Okay, so total expenses for the truck, fixed plus variable, we're going to break them down a little bit here in just a second, was $610,349.37. That gave us a total expense of actual per mile at $1.02 a mile, dispatch per mile $1.10 per mile, $665.59 per day cost. Per week, it cost us on average to run the truck per week $4,659.15 per week. Operating hour while the truck was running, it cost us $47.40 per hour. Total hour, the entirety of the lease, whether the truck was running or not, it was costing us $27.73 per hour. Net revenue to the bank pre-tax, okay, because guys, everybody's taxes are going to be a little bit different. I can't give you guys, I can't tell you, well, my taxes was 11% of my total gross, and then you guys say, well, I wrote off this, this, and this, and it was only 8% of my total gross. Okay, that's great. That's why it's situational. So this is net pre-tax after expenses on the road with Prime. Now, this is one thing I want to make clear. None of this is saying out-of-pocket expenses. If me and my wife went and bought a GPS out of our bank account, TV, or any of that stuff, this is all that has been documented with Prime. Everything that came off our fleet card, POs, all of our PO stuff that was billed to the truck through Prime. This is stuff that was on paper with Prime. This is not the expenses, our personal out-of-pocket expenses. That's a whole different thing, okay? This is what you can expect to see from your statements, from the end of lease and stuff with Prime. This is what we're going over now. So net revenue to the bank without the end of lease bonus, pre-tax, okay, was $534,364.47. So within the entirety of the 131 weeks, we brought home to the bank without the end of lease completion bonus over $500,000. That gives us an average take home of $4,079 per week, which means we were profiting $582.73 per day. That's an 89-cent actual per mile take home pre-tax, a 96 dispatch per mile take home pre-tax, $41.40 per hour take home pre-tax, and that was operating hours with the truck running. Total hours, this is what gets me crazy right here. Total hours is $24.28 total per hour. Now yes, that being said, that's me being home, that's me being on the road, that's me being sitting at a shipper receiver. That's just the truck being in our possession, like my wife said. A lot of you guys are coming into trucking and you say, man, I'm just going to make a ton of money. Okay? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, for the last 131 weeks, what was it, 917 days of that, I averaged $24 an hour. That's what I made. For every hour of every day for 917 days. Okay? The only difference that people don't understand within trucking and another industry is that you can be available to work as much as you want to in trucking. When you go to a regular job or a warehouse job or an industrial job, those hours are broken up into the hours that you are there. That is it. So that can be really good for you in trucking, and that can be really bad for you in trucking. That's for a whole nother video. We're not going to get sidetracked. So anyways, total for 917 days, every hour of 917 days, I was making $24 an hour and 28 cents. That is not my wife's pay. That was totally on her. That was, now part of her expenses was from me. Part of her pay that I was paying for her for a while was an expense to me. But this is not counting her pay. So I don't want you guys to get that skewed. This is everything that came to me on my driver code, on my LLC, to our business bank account. And because of me.
We weren't teaming the whole time either. You were training.
Yes, and there was a lot of training. Let's get that off the table. This is very few weeks solo too. I probably was solo maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I think, and that was just in between students, trying to get to guys, stuff like that, waiting on her to be done. I was not solo very often at all. I trained.
Also, a mix of flatbed and reefer.
Yep, I trained and teamed. Okay, that's another thing. This was a mix of flatbed and reefer, and I'm going to give you guys a perspective about that here in just a minute. Let's talk about the end of lease bonus. The end of lease bonus for Tonk ended up being $38,572.97. Now, granted, most of this is money that you're going to pay in as far as your tire fund, your excess mileage charge, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's paying you to lease their truck. There is some incentives, okay, don't get me wrong, there is some incentives, but this is pretty much your money. This is the incentive that you have to complete that lease for Prime. Hey, you're building up all this money, you're putting this money in. If you finish it, you're going to get majority of it back, but if you forfeit the lease, you're not going to get it back, because Success tends to take that money, they will hold it. When you turn a lease in early and you don't complete it, they're going to hold that for depreciation. You're not going to see any of that money back. And when you turn it in, whatever they actually charge you to get that truck back up to spec for the next driver or to sell, it's going to come out of your pocket. So don't forget that. That is a whole nother video, so we're not going to get sidetracked. Like I say, guys, we could talk about trucking 24/7 for probably 10 years and still never get all the information out. So $38,572.97 total for our EOL bonus availability. After all of our deductions and repairs and stuff like that we were charged for, which was $4,304.03, we ended up taking home $34,268.94 of our money. So we were able to bring back $34K plus, and that was a pretty good week that week. If I'm not mistaken, that was nice. That was nice to be able to see, look in the bank and see 39 grand at the bank in 1 week. That would be a clickbait video. I could just be like, hey, I made 40 grand with Prime this week. Never happens. This is because of end of lease bonus. So anyways, it's pretty nice. You get that return back. It was nice. It gave us we were able to take some time off, do some things, and pay some bills off stuff. It was fantastic. Guys, don't get me wrong, that's your money. That end of lease money is your money. We're going to talk about our grand total for the truck for Tonk. Grand total net revenue, including the end of lease bonus, pre-tax, like I said, $568,633.41, which gave us a total average for a week of $4,340.71, $620.10 per day, 95 cents actual per mile take home, $1.02 dispatch per mile take home, $44.16 operating hour for every second the truck was running, and then total for the entirety of the 917 days, 131 weeks, we were bringing home $25.83 total per hour. I was, not including Mama's money, or the trainees' money, or any of that stuff. This was just my money. So on my side, you're seeing the expenses of her wages, but you're not seeing the.
And this was back.
It's not adding back in because that's all on her driver code.
And this was back when a student's guarantee was $900. But what the people don't see is that the trainers are paying the taxes and the FICA and all that.
Yeah.
It wound up being $1,400 out of Will's check, and by the time it got taxed and everything, we wound up putting $600 roughly a week.
Back into the bank,
into the bank after it went through Prime and then got back to us.
Yeah,
again.
which once again, you're talking about training pay, that's a whole other video.
That is a whole other video, but
like
I told them to think that like we're splitting the income 50-50
right.
and there's like something big that I've got put up. No, this is my pay was
we could dive into this all day. It really is. It takes forever. So now here's kind of a little breakdown here of a little bit actual per mile, dispatch per mile, and per week. I kind of broke this stuff down because some of you are going to have some questions like, what about repairs? What about miscellaneous? What about fixed costs? And you really didn't break that down. So we're going to do a little breakdown of that. First of all, we're going to start with the revenue here. Total freight revenue only was $887,604.50. Actual per mile, that gave us $1.48 per mile, $1.60 dispatch mile here. And per week, actual freight revenue was $6,775.60. Now, fuel surcharge, we ended up bringing in $167,668.41 for fuel surcharge, which gave us a 28-cent per mile, actual mile, 30-cent per mile, dispatch per mile, total per week of $1,279.91. Other miscellaneous revenue, which could have been tarp pay for tarping on flatbed side, could be lumper reimbursements, toll reimbursements, detention. All this stuff just constitutes miscellaneous revenue. If you did a trailer repair and Prime paid you, this is all under that little category. So it ended up being $123,709.87. It was a 20 cents per mile, actual per mile, 22.3 dispatch per mile, and then $944.35 per week. Now, when you start talking about cost, we're going to talk about fuel. These numbers here for fuel and DEF, we are going to go over post discount. So this is our cost, okay, for the fuel and the DEF. So fuel for the 917 days, 131 weeks, cost us $225,945.02, which was a cost of 37 cents per mile, over 37 cents per mile. Actual mile, 40 cents per mile, dispatch per mile, $1,724.77 per week cost for fuel. DEF was $8,600.94 total cost for the 131 weeks, which gave us just over a 1 cent per mile cost. Actual mile, just over a little bit higher for a dispatch mile, over 1 cent per mile cost, and a $65.66 per week cost for the DEF. Repairs, we're looking at, and this is going to constitute any kind of maintenance items, PMs, any of that kind of stuff. Because I had somebody comment a couple weeks back, hey man, I want to break down the repairs. How does that look, as far as on paper? I'm not going to go into every time I got an oil change or every time I got a warranty item done they didn't cover or stuff like that. But I will tell you this: maintenance for 131 weeks on that truck costed me out of pocket or out of my settlement $23,380.12. which gave me a total cost per mile of actual miles, almost 4 cents per mile, right here, and then just over 4 cents per mile dispatch miles. So, which gave us a total weekly cost of $178.41 average. Tires, on the other hand, out of what I actually ended up paying, and you build up a tire fund and stuff like that, and this constitutes where that number's coming from as well. Post discount, $9,945.69. This is any kind of repair you've had, balancing, any of that stuff constitutes as tires. So $9,945.69, which gave me a cost per mile just over a penny, so almost two pennies per mile. And same thing with the dispatch miles, almost 2 pennies per mile there. The weekly cost average was $75.92 for 131 weeks. So you can count on that per week. You want to try to keep that put up, at least $80 per week for tires in the long run. Driver wages, this is what I paid every trainee, my wife for the short time that she was company, anybody that I paid off the truck off my payroll. This is what it constituted for 131 weeks. So $96,838.19, which gave me a driver wage cost of 16 cents per mile, actual miles, 17.5 cents per mile, dispatch miles, and total weekly cost of $739.22. So that didn't matter. That didn't matter if the truck was moving, not moving, whatever. If I was paying so much wages out that I was actually paying an average of $740 out every single week. Fixed cost, this is things that doesn't change. Your truck payment, APU payment, yada yada. Anything that is reoccurring weekly that is always the same is your fixed cost. We had a fixed cost of $168,314.45, which gave us an actual fixed cost per mile of 28 cents, just over 28 cents. Dispatch per mile of just over 30 cents, which gave us a total fixed cost per week of $1,284.84. Miscellaneous costs, this is anything under the sun other than your fixed cost and anything else listed above. Could be something as simple as a toll, anything like that. So miscellaneous costs for 131 weeks was $77,324.96. Total actual per mile on our miscellaneous cost was almost 13 cents per mile right here. And dispatch per mile was almost 14 cents per mile right here. And then weekly cost for miscellaneous was $590.27. Now, guys, I want to make something very clear with you about this right here. These are the backbone numbers for the operation of this truck. Okay, this is basically, it really doesn't get any simpler than this. It only can get more complex. So when you're talking about this stuff, these are your main costs that you're going to incur every single week. These are your main revenue points that you're going to incur every single week. My experience is not going to be the same as everybody else's. I teamed or trained most of the time, okay? The majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, I was teaming or training. My thing is like, yes, you're going to have more maintenance as a team truck, but you're also going to end up having more revenue as a team truck as well. So it's all about what you want out of it. Some people can't team, some people can't train. I get it 100%. This was just my experience. And believe me, we're not going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. So we've got plans for retirement as well, just like everybody does. But there is something I want to put in perspective for you guys. So some of you probably sitting out there wondering, you're like, man, he did this truck, flatbed first, then he swapped over to reefer, did that truck. He's like, wondering what the difference was. Well, I can't really give you guys a difference, okay? Because we were in the middle of flatbed, in the middle of a fiscal year, when we swapped. But I can tell you this, I can give you a full year of reefer, and you can take this and subtract it away from everything else. What I can tell you for 2022 reefer only team, we had 52 weeks, 365 days accounted for. Can't give you actual mileage because I didn't document that. Dispatch miles was 216,217 miles for dispatch miles. Gross revenue to the truck, $534,899.51, which gave us a gross weekly average of $10,286.52. $2.47 per dispatch mile average. We had a $1,465.47 per day average. $61.06 total hours. The total expense, fixed plus variable, $290,081.32. $5,578.48 per week. $1.34 per dispatch mile cost average. $794.74 per day cost average, and a $33.11 total per hour cost average. So that's every single day, every 24 hours, not just when the truck ran. The total net pre-tax to the bank for 2022, just on my end, not my wife's end or anything like that, was $244,818.19. A $4,708.04 take home per week. Average $1.13 per dispatch mile average, $670.73 per day average, and a $27.94 total per hour average. That's whether I was asleep, awake, whatever. That's what I was making. It was basically $27.94. Now, when you compare that with everything else, with the total for the truck, you can see here. So per hour, total per hour, $25.83 per hour total. That's for 131 weeks. Just for 2022, we were doing $27.94 total per hour. So that was over a $2 pickup per day. Let's see what we're doing. $620.10 per day. $670.73 per day. Per dispatch mile, $1.13. Per dispatch mile, $1.02. You can see 2022, we actually did better in 2022 reefer team than we did for our entire average of the 131 weeks, 917 days. If that gives you guys any kind of ideas about these numbers here for lease, you got to remember too, I was team most of the time. I did train most of the time, and I did after 2021, after Thanksgiving or before Thanksgiving of 2021, I had my wife on the truck from then on out. So a little bit different, guys. I'm a very proactive driver. I'm doing my best out here to get empty early, get loaded early, you know, take off and get where I need to go. If something holds me up, if I'm sitting, I try to make sure that it's not my fault. It's not something that I'm doing. And I can tell you, and like I said, there's going to be guys out there be like, man, I did that solo last year with my own truck. That's great. That's amazing. That's your experience. This is my experience. I'm sharing you guys to give you guys a perspective on what can be done here. There's probably somebody doing better than me here at Prime. I know there probably is. Okay, there's probably a million trucks out here doing better than me. But this is my experience. This is what I have to give you guys. And these are actual numbers down to the penny. So it'll give you guys something to base your, like, give you I guess a baseline to work off of monetary wise. When you're coming to Prime, you're going to lease a truck, what you need to be looking for, the different costs and the different revenues, stuff like that, kind of give you like a guideline to work off of. So, and that's what this whole video is about. Guys, thank you so much for watching. First time joining the channel, don't forget to like, sub, and share the channel, get that information out there. Till the next one, guys, stay safe, God bless. Freight Skater out.